Prepare yourself for invasion. This is Indie Invasion.
Well, who is this with me? Welcome to Indie Invasion Shorts. I am without Max, so I went and found my favorite knucklehead, CTW. Spaz is in the house from Teaching with Board Games. He's going to hang out with me this Thursday, and we're going to talk about all things gaming goodness. Welcome, you guys. We'll give it a little bit of time for people to jump in on whether on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. Whatever's your pleasure. But yes, fastest 30 minutes in gaming. Welcome, Spaz.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yes.
Actually, your favorite knucklehead is actually currently in Mexico right now.
You went from one extreme to the next, right?
Yeah. So it's beautiful.
Let me see. We already got comments. Todd is saying, well, this is an unexpected surprise. Surprise!
Co-host with hair.
Yeah, you got too much hair compared to Mac. So, and Ron says, hey, Ron, welcome in, you guys. Can you see the comments, Spaz, like in the side there?
Comments, maybe. Oh, there we go. Because I was still on private chat. So,
who you private chatting?
I'm new to this program, so I wasn't sure what the
anybody that answers.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to besides vacation, game wise? What have you been up to lately?
Just some board games.
Board games.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a Blood Bowl league going locally.
Okay.
That's been very. People have been saying they're interested, but actually getting the teams out, getting the people to actually commit to some games and stuff, it's just tough. I don't think I'm going to be doing like a fixed schedule league, which was my original thought, just because people are just too inconsistent. I think it's just going to be play when you want, who you want.
Yeah.
Just go with it.
That's kind of any kind of organized event. I used to try to organize tournaments for Wild West Exodus, and sometimes it was just hard to get enough people, committed to it that I'm like, you know what? Let's just do open play. We'll meet and just have a good time. Just have fun.
Yeah.
And that's the way I usually like playing games anyway, is just see what happens. Have fun.
Yep. Yeah. I've been getting back into Blood Bowl after a long hiatus. I didn't realize how long the hiatus was, but it's been quite a while. And, so now that I'm back into it, I'm really excited to be back into it. I just want to play more.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I never got into Blood Bowl. There really wasn't much of I could never find like a community for it in my area.
Which is funny because the Chaos Cup, which is one of the 4 majors in the world, is out of Chicago.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. But well, I can see we have a bunch of people in tonight. So
and Ron's asking, what's the agenda?
Yes. I'm getting to it, Ron. So tonight what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about cheater, pumpkin eater, cheating. You only cheat yourself. So this is kind of a topic I've had in the queue for a while. We just never got into it. And as a side note, you guys, if you guys have any ideas for topics, message us. Send them us, in an email or something. My list is starting to get short again, so I need some ideas. Put them on there, and we will try our best to tackle them. But yeah, tonight we're talking about cheating. Why do people do it? And what do you do when it happens to you in a game? We are playing.
And a quick caveat here, the reason I'm asked onto the show is not because I'm a big cheater or anything.
Cheater, pumpkin eater.
Yeah.
So I think first off, I want to come right out and ask, have we ever done it? Spaz, have you ever cheated in a game?
Well, when I was young, for sure. Like lately, no. I mean, I don't think so. Like,
See, right away, that's kind of the thing I thought too. Is I think back of when I was a kid. I didn't like the way those red checkers were lining up when I was trying to make my 4 in a row.
mm,
Probably back then I did. It's probably why my parents didn't really want to play games with me.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I see kids doing it quite a bit because kids get focused on the win, right? That's their goal. And that's just the early, life. I don't think I ever have in a game either because it's like my view is if you feel like you need to cheat, why are you playing? You know, um, you like I said in the title, you're only hurting yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that enjoyable for you? I don't know. Maybe each to his own. But one of the things I kind of want to start off with this conversation is why people would cheat. Now, me and you were talking the other day about a little bit of this, and the first thing that pops into my head is what motivates somebody to do that? Well, maybe it's a tournament, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
big prizes. You were talking about big money, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a lot of tournaments I would go to, there's the prizes may be like a homemade trophy or something. So,
Yeah.
but like if you're starting into cash prizes, I know like some Magic tournaments, things like that, or even when you get into like Fantasy Flight level, like you start getting to the like the majors of that, and then you get like printed onto a card.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot they used to do that.
Not used to. Our friend, our mutual friend Tim Bunn, was just put onto a card for
Okay.
one of the games. Yeah,
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done the Fantasy Flight thing. I used to go up to Minnesota and participate in the worlds and stuff, and I usually did okay, but I think the last time I went and did the X-Wing, I got my butt handed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of goes towards just tournaments in general. I kind of, I outgrew them. Wasn't my thing anymore. And I always wondered about stuff like that. Like you said, the bigger tournaments where there's more on the line. You may see some of that. You hear about people getting disqualified for stuff like, some shenanigans going on in a game.
Do you remember that thing? There was a popular video was going around a while back with like
Collusion, I think it was, right? There was some people kind of in league with each other. I think it was a card game. If I
No, this is
remember
like
right.
the X-Wing one I'm talking about because you brought up X-Wing. That's what made me think about it.
Okay.
Where the guy was talking and the guy's moving his ships, he picked up his dial and just kind of spun the dial to a new order and put it down again. And this was because they were getting down to the finals. The game was being recorded, and I guess he'd forgotten about that part, so he was called out on that.
I do remember that now. Yeah, the pressure was getting on to win. So that's actually one of our things, right? You just got to win. You can't accept a loss or something, and that's not me. If I lose, I lose. And I know a lot of us out there, guys that are watching, you, Mac. Speaking of, hello, Mac.
He just can't stay away.
You can't stay away. A lot of us we play for the fun, right?
Yeah.
We're not concerned about the win or the loss. It's the enjoyment of playing the game with friends. So let me take a look at some of our comments here. We got quite a few people in here. Ron is saying he has never cheated that he can remember. And also says winning mentally in tournaments is where I see the most cheating. True. Yeah, the tournaments can create an ugly atmosphere. Here's a nice big one that just popped up from Mike. His theory is that for some people, it's just a mentality where they simply want to outwit their opponent, but on another level. They don't see any harm in it because their opponent has the same option. Different mentality for sure.
Yeah, that is a different. I don't see it that way. You have the option to cheat. You just choosing not to exercise it. It's like.
I think that goes back to why are you playing then, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so some of the things that you might see that kind of signal this, you brought up the other day when we were talking cocked dice. Sometimes that happens, and people will re-roll all of the dice, some of the dice. I think, like I know in D&D, when you have the cocked dice, you just re-roll it. That's, usually you're just rolling one or two anyway. But I think in a game like, your GW games where you're rolling handfuls of dice, is easier and time saving just to re-roll them all, right? So sometimes you see that happen, and I think one of the things that I see a lot, or I have seen a lot, not personally, but I see in the industry, is people will do things out of order, like phase order, kind of manipulate the rules that would benefit them in the game. Now, it may seem like a small, trivial thing, but in a way, you're manipulating rules, right? You're still kind of bending them to suit your way. So, is that cheating, or is that, I don't know?
And I will admit I'm sometimes bad with that, where I will get rules wrong. I think I know what I'm doing, and I get the rule wrong, and then in retrospect, I look back and think, oh, geez, I did that totally wrong, and now I realize that was to my advantage the way I interpreted the rule, and maybe somebody thinks I'm a cheater because I'd done that, but it's never.
It makes you nervous, right, when you do that. And
I don't want that to be. I don't want to be perceived that way. Like that, I like to be honest. I like to be fair in my play with people. I mean, like I say, it's a game. I'm playing for fun, and I want us to have the equal playing field. Don't want to be cheating.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing when you unintentionally cheat, and you feel bad about it. But I think if you're upfront with your opponents, it's like somebody said, you have kind of like this contract with your opponent. It's like an unspoken written type of thing of just playing the game best of your ability and your knowledge. I think
Todd's saying it breaks the covenant you have with your opponent. You have that. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Well,
in Blood Bowl, there was a thing that for a while, because in Blood Bowl you may be rolling, like when you attack somebody, it can be like 1 dice, 2 dice, or 3 dice. And depending on the comparative strengths of the two players involved. And, we used to do a thing like with North American Blood Bowl. It would always be like if we rolled and then even 1 dice was cocked, re-roll them all. Or if 1 went off the table, re-roll them all. But when some of the guys went over to a European tournament, and then the Europeans are like, no, we only roll 1 because it saves time. So now it's kind of shifting that way. So I think, but, for me, it's always like if the issue of cocked dice is like, if you have to ask, is this dice cocked? Then it's cocked. Like if the dice is not flat, saying, was this cocked? If you need to ask, just re-roll it.
And of course, a lot of times when it comes to the rules and manipulating, sometimes you will manipulate the rules as long as it's understood by all the players, for time, for ease. Maybe something's just too complicated and it just bogs down the fun of the game, right? So a lot of times as a group, you can change those rules, and that's okay as long as everybody knows it. I am seeing a funny topic here. Alder, welcome to the show. Good morning. And he's asking, are we talking about how to cheat? No, we're not talking about how to cheat, Alder, but we're talking about.
Well, I guess maybe indirectly we are, because we're giving discussions of cheating, and so people could be taking this as a lesson on what they could be doing, especially as we talk about what we're seeing, and they can take that how to not get caught.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not endorsing it, but maybe.
No, nor am I.
And like Todd says here, creative interpretation of the rules. As long as everybody understands that, that's the thing. That's the key. If you're the only one to that party, well, you're kind of cheating then.
Yeah. No, I think that's an example of how people will do that. They'll cheat by creatively interpreting the rules to try and suit it to their favor. I had a friend like that when I was a teenager. It was I didn't like playing with him.
Yeah. So real quick, some of the other things you may see people do, on purpose or inadvertently, is maybe not discard enough cards. A lot of games at the end phase, you have to discard down and redraw up. Sometimes, it happens by mistake. Sometimes it doesn't, just like any card game, it's easy to slide that little card in there, type of thing. Or maybe move a mini a little bit further than they should have gone, because maybe they want to get into that cover so they don't get all shot up. So those are some of the things I thought of that people may try to get away with, bend the rules a little bit.
In like some games where you have to like gauge, like, am I within range without actually measuring? People, I've heard of people who actually know their measurement from their elbow to the tip of their finger.
Oh, really? So they'll
pretend that they're looking at something on the table. They'll put their arm down, and they're like, "Well, this over here," and then they're looking at their elbow to the tip of their finger, and then they know the measurement. They know. So yeah, there's people. There's nothing you could be doing.
That's no different from back in the day, and not that I did this in middle school, but I remember people writing stuff on their arm, so you can be like, "Oh yeah, oh okay, that's what it is."
On their shoe or something.
Just have the little marks in there so they can measure with their arm slyly.
Yeah. One I've seen a fair amount is where people will roll dice. And you ask them a question, they quickly look at their dice, realize they didn't like it, so they quickly scoop it up again so they can pretend like they're concentrated. Okay, that roll didn't count. So what were you saying?
You're just warming them up, right?
Yeah. Well, it's or like a dice they're rolling and a dice maybe pops out of the dice cup or whatever, and it lands. And if it lands on what they like, okay, that's fine. But if they don't like it, rolling, no, that wasn't a real roll. It just fell out. I want to roll it properly. Give me a second chance. So I've seen that.
Shenanigans.
That is some serious dice shenanigans. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Here Todd's saying that back in the Dice Masters heyday, he knew a kid that would palm the dice he wanted to pull from, because they had the little bag. So yeah. Oh, that's some sneaky stuff there too. And Ron remembers people doing the whole move the miniature a little bit further than they should.
Right, or if you're moving a miniature, like you're measuring from the back of the base, but then you move it, front or the front of the base, but then to the back of the base, so you get the base's extra distance when you move the miniature.
Yeah, and I've heard, you hear that a lot in the miniature games of using the official base and stuff like that, and wanting to know, okay, where is that placement, so ahead of time. And I have to shake my head at Alan here. I think I know what kind of player he is now. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's I ain't playing with you, Alan. I don't know if I want to play with you now. So going over all that, my question is, how do you handle something like this while you're playing the game? It's easy basically to just not play with players like that if you know that they're that kind of player. You play with them once and it's just like, okay, I'm just not gonna play with you anymore in the open play, or because I want to play for fun, right? You brought up a point that if you saw it, you kind of just let it slide. You just try to have the best. I
recall playing a game where it was a board game called Dice Town. I still remember this incident very well. And you're rolling dice. You're trying to make almost like, I think you're making poker sets with the dice and whatever. But you have your dice behind this like a shield as you're doing things. But from my angle, I could see a guy across the table to my right. And as I looked over, I kind of saw him. I couldn't see his dice faces, but I could see that he was turning one of his dice. And I let it go. I didn't say it. I didn't call him out. I didn't want to embarrass him or make the things. It would have made everybody uncomfortable. It's just like, really, dude, if that's how you're going to be, I mean, if that's what you need, then go for it. I don't care. This game doesn't mean that much to me. But again, playing for bigger things, bigger tournaments and stuff, and it could. Like if it was a Blood Bowl tournament, then there's a little bit more at stake. So at what point do you call them out? Yeah.
And in a tournament, basically what you could do is, don't feel bad about fair play. You can say, call over a judge or something and, mention to it. And most of the time they give them warnings, a second warning. And, if it's like a consistent thing, they, aren't afraid to say, disqualify them type of thing. And don't be afraid of calling that out, I guess. I think it depends on the individual, right? What
Mhm.
are you there for? Are you there just to compete, or are you there to just try and have a good time? So, like in your case, yeah, do you really want to call somebody out and maybe make everybody feel uncomfortable, or do you just want to kind of, I guess, muscle through it and just try to have a good time? Or, something you could do is just try to just destroy them, make them just pay for that and be like, yeah, was it worth it? No.
No more mercy.
That's what I try to do. Usually the dice have their other agenda and those kind of games, but you make them pay for it, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, like you said, ignore and just try to have fun. If you catch it being done, just don't play with them again. I mean, that's more of a general thing. Like if you're in like an open play type of thing, and maybe just a bunch of people show up to play, you don't really know them, but that's also why a lot of us, we're gonna play with people we know, with our buddies, with our friends, because for the most part, you're not going to do that to your buddy. You're just there to have a good time and throw some dice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Alder's got a good story here. So he's saying there has only been one player that he refuses to play against, as they intentionally cheat in so many ways. He even forfeited a game in a tournament against him rather than play the game. I can understand that, because in that kind of case, that can be very frustrating. That takes a lot of the fun away if they're consistently doing it.
I'd be curious, what game was that, Alder? If you could just put in the chat, like what game was that you were playing that he was cheating at?
Let's see.
But yeah, that definitely, it does, it does kill the fun for everybody when people are cheating. I mean, like I remember once happened in a Blood Bowl game where the dice was caught because the way the board splits in the middle and the board was a bit uneven. So at one point the dice was on the 2, and he said, "Is that cocked?" And I said, "If you have to ask, then it's cocked." Later in the game, he got a dice in almost the exact same spot again, where it's like sort of resting slanted on that crack in the board again. But this time it was the roll he liked, so he quickly just picked it up and went ahead with his turn. And I was kind of like,
"That's it."
All right.
Yeah,
and I just let it go. I didn't say anything, but then I gave him the lowest possible sportsmanship score for that game. We're supposed to rate people's score, and he ended up getting he ended up getting the Golden Sue there, which was like the worst sportsmanship award. So yeah, he got his comeuppance on that. He was kind of surprised, like, what, why me?
Mm-hmm. See, that's one thing that you can do in kind of organized play if you're doing it in your stores. Have something like that the players vote on. It may discourage those type of players from coming back. Yeah, Alan's actually saying that he knows a guy that has his dice checked regularly. That's funny.
Yeah, actually, I remember there was one guy in the Blood Bowl, coming back to Blood Bowl again, that he had these dinosaur dice. They were hard to read for starters, and then they just seemed like they were just too good. They were just, I seriously questioned.
They're too hot, huh?
They were way too hot. And I seriously questioned that they were not loaded dice, because it was crazy.
I can imagine that in a hobby game, a game that you usually play for fun, but like kind of Todd said in a quote here that, if you pay to play, the prize is important. But he also says, don't be afraid to call them out.
Yeah. Well, I have told people, like with the dino dice, I told them, like, no, you're not using those dice anymore.
Yeah. And that's an easy enough thing. And you just be like,
Or we both use the same dice. And if you're concerned with the dice are perhaps too good.
And that's basically fair play, right? Then you're evening, that playing field. And if they're not okay with that, well, then you're kind of wondering, well, you can't use those. And that's why a lot of companies have official stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And when you go to a lot of tournaments, sometimes they will supply you with dice to use.
Yep. Here you go, Spaz. Alder said it was Blood Bowl and Bolt Action he played this guy in.
Okay.
Yeah, he said it just wasn't worth playing, ruined the whole event. And I can see that. And yeah, like you mentioned with the X-Wing thing, I've seen people do that before where, they kind of are messing around with that dial because once you set it, you're supposed to just leave it. And I've seen that where people mess around with it, and yeah, they know what the stuff is on there, so they can easily manipulate it. Yeah, Alder, it is all about fun. Some people just want to win at all costs. Yeah,
and I think some people, it's part of their maybe their self-esteem is, they feel that they feel bigger, better people. That maybe they're not confident people to begin with, and then maybe going to a tournament and winning makes them feel better. I mean, sure,
that is a real good reason why people would do that. Is that boost in self-esteem, where they feel powerful in the game, type of thing.
Yeah.
Ron has a pretty good example here too. I've only ever had to call out one guy, and it was way back when he was playing D&D miniatures game, and the prizes were really good. Said they kept changing his dice rolls, or would roll and say a number before you could even see them. Yeah, that's pretty shady. A lot of games I know are pretty specific on about, it's like, okay, you roll them way over here so the other player can see them. Don't roll them over here and be like, okay, yeah, I got this. It's like,
or you lift up the dice cup, so you're blocking the view from the other person. Oh yeah, that's the roll, and you just scoop them up again.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, and Todd's mentioned, and we talked about this in the beginning, the younger they are, the more it matters. So yeah, and that's just kids. They're kind of tunnel vision in that sense. So I think when I play with kids, I kind of expect that. And sometimes with the kids, they just don't quite understand the rules. Like you mentioned, you kind of misinterpret the rules. So kids are a little more easy about, I'm just gonna go with it and make up my own.
Actually, I kind of read that the other way first. I was thinking the younger they are, the more it matters to teach them about cheating and the how it's not a good thing to do. But yeah, I see now. I think you're right. I think that's what it
could be both sides.
Yeah,
I think that could be both sides, because maybe that's kind of what happened to people. Like you said, maybe it's a self-esteem thing. If a kid is learning to play games, maybe growing up, and they're just constantly pounded on, maybe it gets in their head that I gotta win. I'm sick of losing, so the only way I can win is to manipulate things. And that's too bad. That's why it's kind of important to teach them the right way and teach the good sportsmanship, right? You win some, you lose some. I've had some humdingers with my son, that's for sure, where he does a table swipe and says, yeah, I don't want to play no more. It's just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I like Alder's suggestion here of using a dice tray. Dice trays, dice towers. I mean, dice are a big part of a lot of the different games we play. And so making sure that the dice are fair, even, none of this problem with like cocked dice. When I sometimes see they can still get cocked, they sort of land funny and nudged up against the side of the wall at an angle. But overall, it alleviates a lot of the problems when you have those dice trays and things. So I definitely recommend that. Or it hits terrain or it bumps a model. There's all kinds of stuff if you
any way you can kind of eliminate that that quirkiness of where things would be judgmental of, okay, he was over there, or that thing was there, will help. Doesn't eliminate it totally, but if it makes it better, it's worth a try. Well, I think that's about all we have. So cheating, how do you deal with it? Well, that's an individual thing. Most of us that are here watching and that I play with, you play with, we play it for fun, right? We don't take it serious. If you are in a tournament where you take it, kind of serious, and there are kind of big stakes, don't be afraid to call somebody out. It comes down to, in that sense, a fairness, because you still want to have a good time, but you don't want somebody ruining your good time.
And they need to learn too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the only way I think things like that'll change. I think overall is if you kind of call people out on it. But I think it's kind of a based on individual, personal, thing, and maybe the situation itself. So, but looking at the time, I think that's about all we have for you guys today. And let me do some.
I think you're
switching
taking us
around
out.
here. I am. Yeah. Do you want to take us out? No.
No,
But yeah, guys, thanks for joining Indie Invasion Shorts. This is, as we always say, the fastest 30 minutes of gaming. It went by very fast. And I want to thank Spaz before we get out of here. You can check Spaz's stuff out on his YouTube channel. Here, I'll put a link in the show notes. And there's his little link there where you can check out stuff that he's doing, where he centers on actually using games as a teaching tool. You got a lot of videos on there. You do reviews. You've done some interviews. So if you guys want to check out what Spaz is doing, go check him out there. And I've
even done some gameplays of
yes, you have,
Urban
that's
Manhunt,
right.
Star Breach, games like that, which games you've introduced me to. Every so often, I'll throw some battle reports in there because I like them.
Yeah, that's something that we'd like to do. Looking over there, I got one of these days. I'll set up a little bit better studio. But you guys, thanks for joining us for Indie Invasion Shorts. You can find some more audio and other stuff on all podcast locations. And please, you guys want to check us out on the social media. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. We got a lot of stuff going on in Discord where guys like this guy here is posting projects, painting pics. You can get inspiration for minis that you're working on. And if you guys have, like I mentioned beginning, any ideas for topics for us to cover, drop us a line at indieinvasion@gmail.com or just shoot us a message on Facebook and stuff. I usually try to answer them as soon as I see them. And here's the Indie Invasion Discord link. I think we will have it in the show notes if you guys are interested in that. And a lot of these places you can check out on coastaltext.com. We have direct links in there. You can listen to the podcast there. And keep an eye open on the Coastal Con Facebook group because that's going on this weekend. So hopefully Mac will be posting pictures, or you guys that are attending will post videos and whatnot. But if you guys like what we're doing, please support us on Patreon. We have a Patreon where you can send us some dollar bills. Keeps the lights on and helps us do what we're doing. And as always, you can go support us at Redbubble. People, Indie Invasion, to get hats, mugs, sweatshirts. When are you getting that skirt?
when I was just gonna say, when's Redbubble putting the mini skirt up there?
See, I looked for a mini skirt. All they had was just a spring summer dress. So you can cut it. Come on.
Mini skirt or nothing. I'm no tailor.
Well, all right, guys, that's all we have. So we will see you next week. Mac will probably be back, and who knows what we'll be talking about, but we will see you guys next week.